Welcome friends to the PC Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at a Craftsman chainsaw. Customer complaint was that he wanted a tune-up. Just look it over. So let's take a look at this thing a little closer. I'm going to dump the fuel out of here, but it's probably not going to be for the reasons you think. If you follow these videos, you know that the first thing I do is look in the fuel tank and take a look at the fuel filter and the fuel line. So why am I closing the cap on the fuel tank? Well, what's happened here is I've already gone through this. He wanted a tune-up. I put a new fuel filter and line in it. Clean the air filter, replace the spark plug, check the air gap on the coil, between the coil and the flywheel, and cleaned it up, whatever. Went through it, went to test run it. Didn't run very good at all. No power under load. So we're going to have to back up here, backtrack a little bit, and look into the carburetor. You know, a lot of times I will include a metering diaphragm and fuel pump gasket as part of a tune-up. But sometimes people are, you know, kind of wanting to keep costs down as much as they can, so I don't even look at that stuff. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I gambled and lost on this one. The saw is going to need some attention in the carburetor, so we're going to backtrack and do that. So we took the top cover off, took the spark plug out, and now we're removing the carburetor. There's the choke linkage. And we got our fuel line here. Brand new fuel line. Yeah, it's on there pretty good because it's a stiff line. So let's open this thing up and see what we got. This is the fuel pump side of the carburetor. This is where the microscreen lives. Look at all that debris in there. I'd say it's at least 3/4 of the way plugged. So it's not getting enough fuel, and that would certainly explain why it was doggy in the cut. Look at all that stuff. Now, if I find a piece of equipment where the fuel filter has rotted off the fuel line, something like that, then I automatically go into the carburetor. That wasn't the case here. The filter didn't look terrible, and the line was only replaced because of its age. It was kind of stiff. So finding that much debris in there was actually a little bit of a surprise for me. Metering diaphragm, it's showing signs of age. So we're going to put a kit in this carburetor. Bam! What do I want to say about this carb kit? I mean, not much. This carb is a little different. I can't remember the model number on it, but there's sort of a base plate inside the fuel chamber, and there's 2 screws that hold that down, and those have to be removed to get that plate off of there to access the needle. You know, usually we just see a single screw holding a cross shaft on the metering lever. The metering lever is kind of pressed into that plate, and then the needle's hidden underneath. We're just going to lift that needle right out of there. Looks clean down in the seat. And we're just going to clean up the new needle and get the schmutz off of it. Alright, so there's a gasket on the bottom of this plate, and a new one comes in a kit. Now there are a lot of little passages underneath that plate, which basically replaces all the Welch plugs that you would see on a other style carburetor. There we go. We dropped it right over the top of the spring. Everything seems to work the way it's supposed to. We'll get these two little screws back in here. Alright, that looks good. They're little screws. You want them tight, but you don't want to get carried away. Now we have a gasket and then our metering diaphragm. And there's a locating pin on those, so you can't really get it wrong. And then we'll screw the cover back down. Look at it go. Alright, the other side, this is the fuel pump side. We're going to put our new micro screen in here. And you just set it over the top of the hole, and you know that's the official tool for pushing it in there, but there's a lot of tools that size that'll work. There's our fuel pump diaphragm. These brown Teflon ones are the better ones. They're more durable, more resistant to ethanol, and pump more volume of fuel. We'll get our pump cover lined up. There's some pins on it. Get that gasket in the pins first. And a single screw to hold the cover on. That looks good. Couple extra gaskets in that kit. Alright, our fuel line is going to go on the carburetor. So the gasket has a hole in it for the impulse feed. It's the pulse from the crankcase that runs the fuel pump and the carburetor. Just make sure that you have that hole lined up with the carburetor. We'll tuck our fuel line under the carb, get our screws lined up, and get them started. So this screwdriver, if you're taking a close look here, it's what you call a cabinet screwdriver. It's thin. There's no shoulders above the blade. And this style screwdriver, it really comes in handy on a lot of these repairs. Right now I'm trying to get the choke linkage into the choke lever. I had to loosen the screw that holds the choke lever in place, but that metal choke lever rod just won't go into the hole in the choke lever itself. Fighting it. It's kind of on an angle and I can't straighten out the choke enough to get it to go into that hole. So we're going to use pliers and just kind of bend it into place. Just like that. Now I can screw that choke lever assembly back down. Well, that's tight. And then we'll finish tightening down the carburetor. So back to the screwdriver thing. You know, a regular screwdriver wouldn't get in here because of the shoulders, I guess you'd call them, on that blade. It would restrict access. We'll get one of them other screwdrivers and show you what I'm talking about. This is a standard screwdriver here. You see how wide it is? It just doesn't fit in there decent. But these cabinet screwdrivers maintain a continuous outside diameter all the way from the handle down to the blade tip. If you do 4-stroke lawnmower repair work, a lot of times you need that style screwdriver to reach down and unscrew main jets. But I don't work on those filthy, disgusting, dirty, 4-stroke, swim in their own filth lawnmowers. Here again, the shoulder screwdriver just doesn't fit down in there decent. Alright, so we had previously done the spark plug and the fuel filter. We talked about all that. And this was just an effort to look inside the carburetor, and we did find the plugged microscreen. So we're just going to put it together here and see if it's going to start, see if it's going to run. Then later I'll drop in a log and fine tune it. So if it does start, that's all I'm going to have for you on the Craftsman chainsaw that came in for a tune-up. Thanks for watching. Later. Look at that, he gets his old gas back, which is actually my fresh gas. Nice toggle switch. Here's our choke. Lock the throttle. Make it go vroom.